Say goodbye to ordinary. Meet the colossal giant cinnamon roll. This is a real giant cinnamon roll. The question is, would you be able to eat this whole thing? Let's not waste any time here and let's just get right into it. So, how do we start? Is it easy? Is it hard? Well, there is some challenges that come with this, but let me give you a guide on how to make this. Now, here's a great tip that will help you out when you're baking. That is to have everything already pre-measured and ready to go before you start. This will save you time and a lot of hassle. Let's quickly go over the ingredients that we're going to need. That's going to be whole milk, instant yeast, butter, flour, fine sea salt, and whole eggs and egg yolks. So today we're going to actually make something different. I've been really looking forward to making this for quite a while now. So now I'm going to get to it. To start, I'm going to start right away with some whole milk. Not very hot, just hot enough to the touch. So just lukewarm hot milk, okay? I'm going to warm this up just enough for the yeast to actually wake up. To that, I'm going to add a full packet of instant yeast. Now there's two different types of instant yeast. There's rapid rise one is very good for when you're going to mix it into the liquid like a milk like this. The platinum one is good for when you're going to mix it with dry flour and allow the dough to rise a bit slower like in your fridge. To this whole milk that we had warmed up, I'm going to go ahead and add the rapid rise yeast to it, and then I'm going to mix it together. Then I'm going to leave it alone for a couple of minutes to let the yeast really bloom in there. As filler for this video, here's a tip. Cold butter will produce a tougher dough and not a soft stretchy one. This will affect the texture. Let's take our butter and just dice it up into small pieces like this. This will make it easier for the butter to actually incorporate with the actual flour itself. So once I have it into small diced pieces, I'm going to just set this aside for now. I would always recommend that you cut your butter ahead of time. Just like I said before, it's always better to have everything pre-done ahead of time to make your life a lot easier. Now to our mixing bowl, we're going to add the all-purpose flour, followed by some fine sea salt, and then our granulated sugar. It's really important that we always mix the dry ingredients together first. This allows them to be evenly distributed across the actual flour itself and not have random pockets of sugar, salt, flour, etc. So it's always good to just mix it up ahead of time. Let's give this a quick mix together. So to this, we're going to add the butter that we diced up earlier. Now for this part, you can use a fork, a spatula, a spoon, whatever you have available to just mix it up together. I'm just using a wooden spoon here. Now I'm just using this wooden spoon because it was the closest thing to me right here. Now from here, let's actually transfer this to the actual mixer. Before we put on the dough hook attachment, we're going to actually add our whole eggs. Now it's important that your whole eggs are at room temperature. So this is the first tip of the actual giant cinnamon roll. If you use cold eggs, it will affect your dough. This will give you a tougher, more dense dough. Now we're going to put on our dough hook attachment, and we're going to just knead this for about 2 minutes until it's all well incorporated. Now to this part, we're going to add just our actual milk and yeast that we mixed earlier together. We're not going to add the whole thing at the same time. We're going to add it little by little. So I'm first going to start here with about a half cup of it. Then I'm going to just mix it for about 2 minutes until it kind of looks like this. Then I'm going to add the rest and repeat the process. Now I'm going to keep kneading this part until I feel that it's all mixed in together. Now that I notice and feel that this is all well mixed together, so now that the milk is added and I can see that the dough is well mixed together, now we're going to start the actual final kneading process. Now for this next part, because I want you to see how long it actually takes to properly knead, this is how your dough should look at the end. This is what you're looking for. As you can see, it's runny, but it's not fully sticky to the hand. From this point, we're going to just pull it out. I'm going to place the dough on an actual floured surface and just knead it a couple of times to roll it up into a bowl. Then I'm going to place it in a bowl that has a little bit of canola oil or vegetable oil just to prevent it from drying, and then cover it with anything. We'll let this rest for about 1.5 to 2 hours. I find that the best place for this to rise is right above the oven, especially if you preheat it when you start and just let it warm up. And as soon as you put this dough there, turn it off. That remaining heat that's left over from the oven being on earlier, that will be enough to create a warm environment. While our dough is resting right now, we're going to go ahead and spread the butter evenly on our pan. In this case scenario, I'm using my big skillet. After about an hour and a half, our dough is ready. We're going to go ahead and place the dough on our flat surface, and then we're going to just flatten it out. We're going to just flatten it out until we get a nice large rectangle. Now we're going to go ahead and spread about 1/3 of a cup of softened butter. We're going to go ahead and take our sugar and cinnamon mix and then just spread it out evenly. Now that we have finished spreading out our sugar and cinnamon mix all over the entire dough, we're going to go ahead and make some cuts. What we want from this is some nice sized stripes. To do this, we're going to go ahead and make 5 cuts to get about 6 pieces. Now for this next part, I'm going to go ahead and start rolling the pieces individually, one after the other, and then attaching them to the other one. It's important that you pay attention how I'm doing this because it does tend to try to fall apart after you wrap it once or twice. Once we've rolled up our giant cinnamon roll, we're going to go ahead and just press it down a little bit to flatten it out. From here, we're going to transfer it to that skillet that we buttered up earlier. Now we're going to let this just rest above the oven for about 1 to 2 hours. What this is going to do is just let it proof, and it's going to increase in size. It's going to nearly double in size. To make our cream cheese frosting, what we're going to need is the following: softened cream cheese, powdered sugar, vanilla extract, and whole milk. To start this process, we're going to add the softened cream cheese to our bowl and start mixing it. We're going to be using the paddle attachment on our mixer, and we're going to keep mixing this for a while. This is going to be roughly for 3 to 4 minutes, or until there's no more clumps on any of the cream cheese. After this, we're going to add half of the powdered sugar first and mix slow. We're going to keep mixing it until that first part of the sugar has incorporated. Now that the sugar has fully incorporated, we're going to add our vanilla, and we're going to mix this together, and then we're going to add whole milk. We're going to keep mixing this until we have the desired consistency. Keep mixing while checking occasionally, then add the rest of the sugar, then mix again. By the end, this should be smooth and slightly runny like this. So now after about an hour and a half, our cinnamon roll has been resting, and it looks roughly like this. As you can see, it's a lot bigger. Before we bake this, we're going to pop the middle a little bit just to release some of that air from the middle. Then after that, we're going to go ahead and flatten it out a little bit. And then we're going to actually put it in the oven. We're going to bake this for about 40 to 45 minutes. Now it's important that when we put this in the oven, we don't put it all the way at the bottom because it's going to burn it. So we want this at a little bit higher than average on the oven. In about 40 minutes, we're going to check it and see if it's ready. Now let's get to baking. Now let's bake our cinnamon rolls. To bake this, we'll leave it in the oven for about 40 to 45 minutes. We will check it at 40 minutes to see if it's ready. This one took about 45 minutes. We're going to let it rest for about 15 minutes before we add the cream cheese glaze on top of it. Now I like flipping this over to check the bottom. Sometimes this will let me see if the bottom is fully cooked or not. Once this has rested for about 15 minutes, I'll add the actual glaze all over the colossal giant cinnamon roll. And now we have completed this video. We have officially made a giant cinnamon roll. Now this took a while for me to make. It took a couple of tries, about 10 tries before I got it right. Hopefully you can follow this guide and you don't have to take 10 tries like I did to get it right. But again, feel free to leave your comments, your feedback, and share this video. And if you did like it, go ahead and subscribe. See you next time. 15 minutes later, let's add the cream cheese glaze.